Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Almighty One God, who is most merciful and beneficent. Dear friends, my name is Dr. Abu Abdullah and I am qualified from Islamic University, Islamabad. This is regarding the next lecture of Islamic civilization. The title is Methods of Judgment in the Administration of Sharia Law by Ibn Qayyum al-Jawziyah. His full name is Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Abi Bakr al-Maruf al-Jawziyah. So al-Jawziyah was born in Damascus in 1292. Young Jawziyah's father, being the superintendent of Jawziyah College, which then served as a court of law. The son came to be called as Qayyum al-Jawziyah. He studied under eminent teachers of whom the renewed reformer Ibn Taymiyyah teachings influenced him the most. He stood by his reformer teacher through thick and thin and even suffered imprisonment with him. Ibn Qayyum proceeded on pilgrimage Hajj to Mecca. He then took to teachings as his career, and on 1342 he gave his first lecture at the Shidriya College. He continues to teach at this institution until his death on the 23rd, 1350. Some of his pupils became eminent scholars in their own right. Having acquired sound education with special knowledge of tafsir, hadith and fiqh, Ibn Qayyum means the Jawziyah, advanced the ideas of his great teacher through he maintained an individuality of his own. Unlike Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyum was influenced by Sufism, and yet he followed his teacher in refuting the ideas on prophecy and pantheism which had spread under the doctrine of Ibn al-Arabi. Besides being a highly qualified theologian and jurisconsult, Ibn Qayyum was a man of great learning. He held independent views which he expressed and substantiated even when the eminent Sufi jurist and Chief Justice of Damascus, Taqiyuddin, had disagreed with him. Ibn Qayyum held that introduction of a third order was not necessary in order to legalize a horse race between the two bad horses. In an altogether different domain, he refuted the validity of alchemy and the claim of its practitioners of converting the base metal into gold. To this end, he brought forth 40 arguments in his treatise establishing falsehood of alchemy. Ibn Qayyum wrote a large number of books and treatises and left an imprint of his independent views on all of them. About 68 of his works which are known cover a wide range of subjects such as Quranic studies, tafsir, hadith, dialectics, theology, seerah, grammar and Sufism. Following as footsteps of his teacher, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyum undertook to counter the trend in the domain of belief and faith, which were against the true spirit of Islam and rationale of Islamic injunctions. Thus, in two of his books, he countered the views held by Ibn al-Arabi and others. His literary genius is reflected by his Fawaid, a landmark in the history of rhetoric. In the domain of law and politics, he authored his important book, Kitabul Torah, which means Method of Judgment in the Administration of Sharia Law, which is the topic of today. Besides substantial law, fiqh, and jurisprudence, both of which were elaborately developed under Islam, there was a third dimension of the day-to-day governance and administration requiring rules and regulations to be made and reinforced by the competent authority to ensure public welfare and public good. Ibn Qayyum's teacher Ibn Taymiyyah had in some of his works dealt with the obligation of the governing authority to the governed in the regard. In this treatise, he discussed the duties and functions of the muhtasib. Muhtasib means the muhtasib is a very simple word. I don't need to translate it. And in his more elaborate treatise, he dealt with the duties and responsibilities of the rulers and the ruled, public transactions, dispensions of justice, and reinforcement of hududullah. Hududullah means punishment for crimes under the injunction of the Holy Quran. Ibn Qayyum made a further advance in this field when he authored Al-Tawraq in response to the question presented to him by a contemporary ruler. The book may perhaps be regarded as the most original and qualitative one on the subject of administration of justice and crime investigation ever written by an early Muslim jurist. Ibn Qayyum deals with circumstantial evidence and gives a score of examples based on the hadith literature and from the practices of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu companion and their followers, wherein circumstantial evidence was admitted, and the cases of criminal as well as civil nature was decided on the basis of that evidence. Ibn Qayyum has also dealt with other important issues such as preventive detention and the models to be followed for investigation of crimes. His approach is highly practical, coupled with a deep insight into the legal concepts of the judicial principles of Islam. So, my friends, this was a very important work by Mr. Abdul Qayyum al-Hawziyah, the methods of judgment in the administration of Sharia law, that how we can conduct and administer the Sharia laws which are in the Quran, which are very important. And I personally, Dr. Abdullah, can differ with some of his opinions, some of his literary work like Sufism, but I totally agree with him that there should be a method of administration of Sharia law. As far as Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Prophet, is concerned, and Sahaba, they were okay with that. They were following truly with the true spirits of Islam. There was one. But after following years, there was weakness in the systems. So he worked on it, though his work was later in 1350 Iswi AD, and according to 751 Al-Hijrah, after Hijrah. So, but even then, it was, I think, a great work by this Abu Abdullah bin Muhammad Abu Bakri Ibn Qayyum al-Hawziyah. So, please keep on watching my channel, Dr. Abu Abdullah.